happens on the same day almost every month. Somewhere around day 25, 26, the gym bag stays zipped. The job applications stop halfway through. The side project you were so excited about 2 weeks ago suddenly feels pointless. You tell yourself you're just tired, but you were tired last month too, right around the exact same date, and the month before that. This isn't a coincidence, and it isn't laziness. There's a specific mechanism in your brain that responds to running low on money, and it doesn't just drain your bank account. It drains the exact chemical your motivation runs on, and once you see how it actually works, you'll never look at losing motivation the same way again. Let's start with what motivation actually is, biologically, because most people get this completely wrong. For decades, scientists assumed dopamine was simply the pleasure chemical, the thing that makes good things feel good. But a neuroscientist named Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan ran a series of experiments that overturned that idea completely. Berridge damaged the dopamine systems in rats and gave them access to sugar water they had previously loved. The rats' faces and rats do have measurable, photographable facial reactions to pleasant tastes, the same way human infants do, still showed every sign of enjoying it. The liking hadn't changed at all, but the rats stopped seeking the sugar water out. They would sit right next to it and simply not reach for it. Berridge separated motivation into two distinct systems, liking and wanting. Liking is the pleasure itself, the payoff once you get there. Wanting is dopamine's job, the drive that gets you off the couch and moving toward the thing you like in the first place. And here's the critical part. You can still like something completely normally, while your wanting system, your dopamine-driven motivation, quietly goes offline underneath you. That gap between still liking your goals and no longer having the drive to chase them is exactly what losing motivation feels like from the inside. It's not that the gym stopped appealing to you. It's that the machinery which used to physically move your body toward the gym has been quietly rerouted somewhere else. So where does it get rerouted to? This is where money enters the story. In 2012, Senthil Mullainathan, Eldar Shafir, and Anuj Shah published a paper in the journal Science that introduced a concept called tunneling. When resources, whether time or money, become scarce, the brain doesn't just worry more about the shortage. It narrows almost physically, the way a camera lens narrows its aperture. Attention gets pulled toward the single most urgent problem directly in front of you, and everything sitting outside that tunnel, including goals that matter enormously to your future self, simply stops registering as important. Not because you've decided those goals don't matter, because your attention, and the dopamine that rides along with it, has been redirected somewhere it judges to be more urgent. Right before payday, when your account balance sits at its lowest point of the month, you are neurologically inside that tunnel. And dopamine, the chemical Berridge showed is responsible for wanting things, for reaching toward future goals, gets almost entirely requisitioned toward one single target, solving the immediate cash problem. Will there be enough for groceries? Will the card get declined at the pump? Is that automatic payment going to bounce? There's very little dopamine left over after that to make a gym session, or a job application, or a passion project feel worth reaching for. Not because you don't like those things anymore, because the wanting system that would normally pull you toward them has been requisitioned by something the brain has ranked as more urgent. There's an older explanation underneath all of this, and it goes back long before bank accounts existed. Behavioral economist named George Ainsley spent decades studying a pattern he called hyperbolic discounting, the tendency for the value of a future reward to shrink dramatically the moment something immediate and pressing shows up. Ainsley's research showed this isn't a flaw unique to certain people. It's a mathematical feature of how virtually every human brain weighs now against later. Under normal circumstances, that discounting is mild. You can still care about a goal 3 weeks out. But scarcity acts like a multiplier on that effect. When the immediate problem is severe enough, urgent enough, the future goal doesn't just get discounted a little. It can effectively drop to zero in your felt sense of importance, even though nothing about the goal itself has changed. Think about what this would have meant 20,000 years ago for a small group of people following the seasons across open land. When food stores ran low, toward the end of a hard season, the brain's entire machinery for wanting things needed to point at exactly one target, finding the next meal. A brain that stayed equally motivated to, say, practice throwing a spear for a hunt 3 weeks away, while the group was genuinely starving this week, was a brain that made a fatal misallocation of attention. Tunneling toward the most immediate scarcity wasn't a bug. It was survival software, built by exactly the kind of pressure your ancestors lived under for most of human history. The problem is that software doesn't know the difference between a genuine famine and a bank balance sitting at $40 4 days before your paycheck lands. It responds to both the same way. But there's a third piece to this story, and it explains why the pattern can start to feel less like ordinary stress and more like a kind of flatness that follows you around even outside of money problems. A researcher named Diego Pizzagalli at Harvard has spent years studying something called anhedonia, a reduced ability to feel pleasure or motivation, most commonly associated with depression. Pizzagalli's lab uses a clever behavioral task in which participants are rewarded slightly more often for one response than another, so subtly that most people never consciously notice the pattern. A healthy brain still shifts its behavior toward the more rewarded option over time, almost automatically. Pizzagalli found that people under chronic stress show a measurably blunted version of this shift. Their brains respond to the same small rewards with less pull, less update, less motivation to lean toward what's working. Give the identical reward to two different nervous systems, and the one carrying chronic stress visibly cares less about it. Financial stress that repeats on a predictable monthly cycle is, in this sense, a form of chronic stress with a built-in schedule. If your reward circuitry gets measurably dampened every month, right around the same low-balance days, then partially recovers once money arrives, only to get dampened again 3.5 weeks later when the cycle repeats. You're not dealing with a personality flaw that resurfaces periodically. You are dealing with a nervous system running on a repeating cycle of chemical scarcity that happens to line up, almost perfectly, with your actual financial scarcity. And here's the part that rarely gets talked about, because it isn't just your own biology working against you in that window. It's an entire industry built to find you exactly there. Payday loan companies, buy now pay later apps, and short-term credit products don't advertise evenly across the month. Their marketing spend and app notifications cluster deliberately around the days right before typical pay cycles, when tunneling is at its most severe and dopamine-driven judgment about future consequences is at its weakest. You are, at that exact moment, the version of yourself least equipped to weigh a 19% short-term loan against its long-term cost, and the timing of the offer landing in your inbox on day 26 is not a coincidence. It's a target window, chosen because the tunnel Mullington and Shafir described is measurable, predictable, and, if you're selling short-term credit, extremely profitable. Put these 4 findings together, and the picture becomes very different from the story we usually tell about motivation. Dopamine isn't pleasure. It's the drive that pulls you toward a goal, and Barrage showed you can lose that pull completely while still liking the goal just fine. Scarcity doesn't just create worry. It tunnels your attention and your dopamine toward the single most urgent problem, exactly as Mullington, Shafir, and Shaw demonstrated, crowding out everything else competing for that same neurochemical resource. Ainsley's decades of research show that under pressure, the future doesn't just lose a little value in your mind. It can collapse toward feeling almost worthless, purely because something urgent is standing in front of it. And chronic repeating stress measurably blunts your reward circuitry over time, the way Pizzagalli's research shows, meaning the emotional flatness that shows up every month isn't a mood. It's a physiological pattern with a name, a mechanism, and unfortunately, an entire industry that has learned to profit from its timing. None of this means you can't do anything about it. It means the advice to just push through, to want it more, is asking a temporarily rerouted chemical system to perform a job it currently has no spare resources left to do. You cannot argue your way past a dopamine system that has already been reassigned. You can only work with the window when it reopens. What actually seems to help, based on this research, isn't more willpower right before payday. It's timing deliberately built around the cycle instead of fighting it. The people who protect their goals best aren't the ones who grit their teeth hardest on day 26. They're the ones who schedule the demanding parts of their week, the workouts, the big applications, the hard conversations, the important financial decisions, for the days just after they get paid, when the tunnel opens back up and dopamine has something left over for the future, not just the immediate emergency. And knowing that the low balance days are exactly when short-term credit offers will most aggressively find you is, in itself, a kind of protection. The trap only works on someone who doesn't know it's a trap. It happens on the same day, almost every month. And next time the gym bag stays zipped and the excitement drains out of everything you were building, it might be worth asking, not what's wrong with you, but what date it is. Because the answer, more often than anyone wants to admit, has already been sitting quietly in your bank balance the entire time, running a piece of software older than money itself.